My name's Christine Levins. As I shared, I am the Vice President of Strategic Initiatives for the Minneapolis Regional Chamber, and we are part of a private-public partnership with Hennepin County that brings you the Elevate Business HC program. The program offers the opportunity for businesses to locate in Hennepin County to receive 3 different types of pro bono services, which include learning opportunities like this today, as well as one-to-one technical assistance provided by business advisors in our community, as well as the opportunity to engage with others in industry-specific settings or different settings for peer-to-peer learning experiences. Today, I'd like to welcome both Angie Wang and Richard He, who are going to share a lot of information, like Angie mentioned, about alternative financing. And with that, I think I'd like to turn it right over to them. They are the experts. If you have questions, we'll ask you to add them into the Q&A or the chat. We'll monitor that and have them answered as we go. This webinar is being recorded, and we'll share that information post-event. So again, thank you for joining us, and thank you to our presenters. With that, I'm going to hand it over.
Thank you, Christine. Hello, everyone. This is Angie. I'm with Asian Media Access, and I have Richard with me. And Richard is Executive Director for Global Learning Alliance. And we are also here representing Chinese American Chamber of Commerce in Minnesota. And we are a group of different small business, and we come together, really would like to advance the well-being for all the small business in Minnesota. So today's subject is just very interesting to myself and our chamber member as well. And we really honored to have the opportunity to share with you all, and especially going through the Hennepin County Elevate business. And this subject has been really in the discussions in our small business circle, particularly I'll say in our Asian American community circle. And we really see a lot of things and definitely challenges and barriers for our financials when we access financial system. And the first one is definitely the costly setup accounts and also costly fees to get financing. And definitely the cultural and language barriers. And we also has a lot of credit barriers because a lot of our Asian American small business, we are cash-based and we practice cash-based in our home country. So when we get into a credit system, it's just very hard for a lot of small business trying to change the behaviors. They would need to borrow the money to build up the credits before they would be able to getting more credit scores and getting larger amount of money. So instead of saving enough, get a pot of money going and then using the own resources. So it's just a very different ways of operating the business, but at the same time, really showcasing all these cultural differences. And the next one is very interesting for checking account reporting issues. A lot of time, the financial system is really built up by a lot of Eurocentric approach. So it's a very logic from A lead to B. A lot of time when I got a chance to discuss with my chamber members, we have a lot of the chart of accounts problem. For examples, a lot of times we will buying dinner for our consulting friends because friends is doing us a favor. So we buying the dinner and we recognize that's one of the consulting expenses. But on the other hand, when we make a chart of account entries, those become entertainments instead of the contracting fee or experts fee. So when the bank see this high entertainment fee, very low consulting fee, that's definitely is one of the questions they will ask. Why is this? So is this company doing the work they're doing? But it's just different chart of accounts entry. So there's a different definition, and the different definition is basing on the culture, and the culture may not paying for consultant, but culture will buying the food for the consulting. So a lot of those things, which is really confusing for our Chinese American small business, and when they enter all these Western based concept financing. And this is really the key, putting us into thinking about how could we help our community to starting more of the different financing possibility. So the last one definitely is that collateral. A lot of our small business immigrants and refugee business, I remember one of the owners tell me they have a friend who receiving the refugee support for the past 20 years. They receiving roughly about 5,000 a year, so maybe 100,000 receiving from the government to support them to go through the refugee status. And he's asking a very key question. He's saying, if that's why it's not giving 10,000 when he just arrived as a refugee, starting his own business, he will be starting to contribute the tax more than that 100,000 he taking in. So this is really related to the system, how it is set up, a lot of time creating many challenges and barriers for our immigrants and refugee business. And we also want to talk a little bit, spending some time really highlighting the different equity framework we hope to be able to talk about. And this is how we base our today's discussions on this equity framework. We really want to challenge this time to thinking about that cultural competency. A lot of time, cultural competency means a benchmark. You reach that benchmark, you are done. We will hope we starting to talk this instead of competency. We talk about cultural intelligence. Everyone wants to be smarter and smarter. So we will not have a benchmark there, but we will continue to advance ourselves until we reach that cultural humility. We respect every culture as the culture of our own. So we can design a system which would be support and integrate diverse culture instead of right now, a lot of financial system is basing on Western concepts. And we also want to talk about culturally specific, culturally responsive, and culturally integrated practices, because this is really the key for what kind of financial package you will offer. For example, culturally specific, a lot of the Asian Pacific Bank in the West and East Coast, they will offer culturally specific. They will offer such a lending circle in their package as well. So we call that culturally specific. And culturally responsive, a lot of mainstream bank, they will have for example, translated material to support their clients. They have tellers which can speak Hmong and Chinese. So those are the culturally responsive. But we also want to encourage this culturally integrated practices. For example, how could some of the bank will look into some of mom and pop shop, would be able to decreasing some of the paperwork and still be able to support them. So we see that culturally integrated is really the key for our inclusion and equity framework. And I will also talk a little bit just about cultural impact on communication and how we interpret the different terms. And that's why I just mentioned that examples. Instead of entertainments, and we become, how could we categorize it, become a consulting fee? So at the chart of account, the bank will be more accept. So those type of interpretation is really impact by the culture and definitely the banking and financing behaviors. So this is really important piece to talk about, particularly culture impacting on how people save money and how people spend money, how people invest their money. But a lot of time, the culture we see is 1/10. So we only see the above the iceberg. Very easy to see the Chinese food, the people, different clothing, and different language we speak. So within this 1/10, there's also opposite is this 9/10 of these underneath the iceberg, which is very hard to see as a cultural perspective, but impacting us every day. For example, we just talk about the concept of time. That's a very easy way to say in the Western culture, concept of time. Time is money. When it's gone, it's gone. But for Asian, the time is circular. It's always come back. It always have tomorrow. So that's what you will hear the term of like Hmong time, which people show up when they show up. So that create a lot of issue for the community with a misunderstanding. Some of the people who show up maybe half hour late and they don't feel that is inappropriate. But for the Western culture, time is money. If you're late, and you are impacting the appointments next. So all these different culture impact will really become a challenge and barrier for a lot of BIPOC community, and definitely the language and definitely cultural understanding. Different people have different behaviors, and that's a lot of behaviors is underneath the iceberg, harder to see and harder to interpret if you are not coming from the same cultural background. And another thing is a high contact and low contact communication style. In a lot of Asian clients, you may notice for us, we talk about things in a larger context. We introduce the environment, such as why I'm talking this equity framework when we are talking about alternative financing. Because we are building this context, a lot of communication ways for Asians, we need to build the context before we get to the key points. And a lot of Western communication is, come on, get to the point. So this is really a way we hope to take this opportunity to showcase those differences and understanding those type of cultural impact on communication do present a lot of challenge and misunderstanding between cultures. And this one is the best example I can see. So in the Western's way, we see a people tired, you drink Coke and you energetic run again. And in our Chinese, we read from right to left. So you are very energetic and now you get to drink the Coke and you die. So it's just a different way of communication because different culture creates so much misunderstanding. So that's what, when we talk about this financing system, we have to continue to keep culture in mind, continue to keep this communication style in mind, as well as to keep the equity framework in mind. So what is that alternative lending we keep saying? We call it hui in our Chinese way. We call it biao hui, means a bidding. Biao means bidding, hui means association. So we have a bidding association together. So how could that be different than the Western style banking? How could that be different than the Western style of financing of your business? So Lending Circle, we always having this as our tradition. And a lot of immigrants and refugees bring that tradition to America. And we do practice that continually. It's kind of crowdsourcing. So more likely they have 6 to 10 people. 6 to 10 people, they come together and they trust each other. They know each other. They put the money together. And each month they will bid. For example, this guy 300, this guy bid 200. And sometimes they will say, no, I'm not bidding this time. So Lending Circle is 6 to 10 people come together. They will pull into the same amount of money every month as a part of the loan. People will bid on it. Who get the highest bid would be able to have that pot of money that month. And each month will continue to circulate between each one of the member until everyone have the opportunity to chip in and receive the pot. And this is a very good process. This is just to give you an example how this process working. For example, A usually is the one who's starting the landing circle, who has a lot of responsibility. If he started, he would need to be responsible. If people take the money, run away, he is the one who going to pay everybody back. But he is also the one who get the money first. In the landing circle, this is a 6 members circle, and we have 6 months period of payment. For example, $1,000, it would be the one to start. Everyone agree this landing circle will put in $1,000, and the minimum bid is 100, for example, and you can bid higher, but you cannot bid lower. So the first one is A, who is the lead, and then he will get the money from everyone at the first. So everyone will give $1,000 to the leader who start this association and the landing circle. And then the landing circle who started has a lot of responsibility, but he got the money first. He's going to get $5,000 from everybody. And the second month, B feel like I need the money this month. I bid higher. I would double the money. So people will bid 200, then he wins. He's the winner for the second one. And everybody, instead paying 1,000, everybody deduct that 200 as the interest gain for them to be able to access the money. So they will pay B 800, 800, 800. But since A did not pay at the first time, so the A will pay 1,000. The continue who has the pot, you see, they will pay 1,000 continually. If people have not get a pot, they got the chance to deduct the interest, to deduct the interest, and that interest is basing on the bid. So this is how it's going to work. B has winning the second round, and he take in 4,200, and he spent $5,000 because he is the bidding and he is going to pay interest. So within the 6 months, he received the money quick, 4,200 at the second month, but at the end, he paid out 800 in interest to others. For this example, you can see who is winning. Actually, it's the one who not bid at the last one who take the money, who only spend 4,200, take in 5,000. $800 interest, it's about 20% gain. But of course, he is taking the huge risk because the one may take the money and run. He has the risk for people not paying the money as well. So that's what, but he's willing to take that risk in able to get a higher interest payment. And B, on the other hand, who needs the money, who doesn't have the credit scores, who needs the money to start business, he will willing to pay friends to get a higher interest, but at the same time, he gets the money first. And the A, who is starting the leader, has the advantage to take the money at exactly 5,000, 5,000, costs him nothing. But at the same time, he received the money first to use the money for his business without paying interest, but taking on a larger risk to be the backup If anybody not paying, he is the one tied to the payment. So you can tell this is the system. Everyone in the system trust each other, and everyone bidding different amount and have the different result. For example, the E's only pay 150, but 150 pay at E level, at C level is totally different. C is income pay same interest for 4,550 for the income, but pay the interest all together 4,800. But actually E is earning the money. E get to pay, really receiving the income 4,850, but at the same time only pay 4,600, oh sorry, 4,350. So this is still get the money, still pay a little bit interest, although the interest payment is the same as, sorry, let me go back a little bit. The interest payment is the same for C, but because he's bidding later, he has some advantage. But those advantage may not become advantage if someone take the money and run. This is the cases we have at 2020 at the New York. According to the police report, our Chinese chamber, New York Chinese American Chamber, receiving a report, a person for the association, the landing circle leader, and Li Xing took the money and run away. So he has about 10 associations, and each month people paying about $1,000 or more to get the pot of the money. And somebody can pay even more to, because they join couple different landing circle with Li Xing, and won't be able to pay. His explanation is because of the pandemic. Out of these meetings, all the people presented in the meeting talk about how much they lost. So the association chamber add together, it's roughly about 620,000 lost in this landing circle because of the pandemic, also because the disappears of the leader of Li Xing, who already has the reputation. People trust him because he is coming from the same province, and also he has been doing from 2016 and has been very successful. And a lot of people bidding on this association, this landing circle way, may not be right away. They may be like the D and E and F waiting at the end to get a larger gain. So that's what somebody may, this is really a different kind of structure, much more loosened without without the financing paperwork. So they did not check the Li Xing's financial backgrounds, but really trust him and believe this is a trusted landing circle. Unfortunately, it's not work out this time. So they do have a risk. So what has been improved? It has been improved a lot since we first way in the United States. We really, in this way, we are, you can tell, people from the same community. They may be having the same immigration background from the same province. They trust each other, so they don't have the language and cultural barriers like a bank may pose those challenges to them. And it's also really a good practice to building the saving and credit history, because this is a way to force you to save because you are in this lending circle, you obligated has to pay into the lending circle certain amount every month. It could be higher, it could be lower, but it's require you to do so. So that's really building that saving, that really having that saving to make you want to do it, because that's the incentive for you at the end. You can also receiving that big pot of money. We also improving is a lot of loans are coming out from the nonprofit using this lending circle concept, such as the PPL at the local uh, project for Pride Living. They also starting the lending circle with their clients. So they are the one who, instead of have individual as the lead, PPL as the lead, they starting it and get people into this way, lending circle, and people starting to save, and they can bid on this pot of money to start with. And they are starting in, I believe it's a $500 per month. So that's what it's also have the safety. You may not be able to, you don't need to worry about people may take the money, run away, because it's coming from a legitimate, credible agency such as PPL. So that's a really an improvement. And we also, for us as an Asian American Lending Circle, we are talking about this concept for years. And we are already starting to see how could we as a chamber and starting a lending circle to support our own community and also to support other immigrants community as well. How could we utilizing this lending circle idea to be able to advance all of us? And we are looking into, I'll talk a little bit more, and also Richard will providing some more example as well, how our Asian American Lending Circle has been working well. And also, we are want to finding ways to support small business. So when we starting the lending circle, we understand some of the cultural interpretation for chart of accounts, for example. So instead of putting the money as entertainment, we encourage people to think differently. How could we be able to recognizing that expenses and make it look better at the chart of account, at the financing report when we do to the bank? So we may be not calling it as entertainment, but we maybe talk about as a professional development, for example. So we really want to help our community to starting to think about that cultural integration process through this lending circle, not just the money, but the technical support as well. And the last one is also important one, adding the legal components. We starting to thinking about how can we develop that legal protection for everyone, not as a 100 pages like the bank, but maybe 5 pages and in the certain legal languages, easy to understand, and people would be able to utilizing this to protect themselves. But at the same time, we really put everything into a cultural integration way. We come to the circle because the trust, but we also want to build a protection for everybody. Since we are in the Western culture, we should adapt into some of the legal system. How could we using some of those to protect the member? So that's really a huge improvement we see for the lending circle. And how could we be able to carry this on continually? And we're thinking about there's some of the different ideas how this could work better. And we're thinking about the lending circle. We are really engaging the communities. We engaging a community who know each other, who would like to support each other. So not just individuals. So we are lending the money to a group of people, a group of people who we trust, a group of people we will monitor each other. We will remind them this is the time to pay your lending circle payment. And we will remind each other and we protect each other as well. So this is, you're not just individual, you're not just one individual to look into your bank asking for lending for the money, but you have a group of support. And we're also thinking that nonprofit would be a great way to start. And maybe some of the micro lending, some of the community development financial could also utilizing this concept of the lending circle to start it, to encourage a lot of the clients to start saving and starting to thinking about how could you having that support system, not just you really starting a small business, you have that lending circle behind you with the money, with the technical support. And we definitely asking to legalize the process to protect everyone. And also the last one is we're really interested to find ways to be able to branch out to other, not just Asian American lending circle. How could we starting the lending circle to support all the small business, particularly the BIPOC community who hit so hard and disproportionately take that impact from pandemic? And how could we be able to help them to recovery faster through alternative financing process? And we really hope to have more discussion to starting this lending circle. We need the trust and we need that regular connection. So how could we do this? And can we having a monthly meeting with interested party, or we starting just posting it and invite people to join us? So we ourselves within our Asian American Lending Circle, we have a lot of questions, but we definitely want to hear from you today as well. How could we improve it? How could we make it more innovative? How could we be able to include more people? And this is one of the lending circles. It's called the Mission Assets Fund. So Mission Assets Fund. It's they starting at 2007, and it's of technology based. That would be another things we can talk a little bit more. Technology based, and they pull in, everybody pull in the money, and you can tell this is a similar structure to set up. So this Mission Asset Fund also working with local Asian American community development. When we hit by the riots, a lot of Asian American small business has a difficulty to recover. So Asian American community development collaborate with them, but was very unsatisfied result because our Asian American small business, they have not get into this fintech business. Yes, they don't understand, they don't trust, they don't know who is at the other side of the computer. And that's really is, it's a culture thinking we talk about. So although we would be able to access this pot of money similar to the lending circle we have as Hui, but with a limited participation. And there's another fintech, and this one is very interesting. Is this, sorry, I didn't get a chance to translate, but this is the fintech website, and you would be able to using this website to really estimate your risk and gain through Hui. So you can tell who is bidding, when to bid, the amount interest you bid, all impacting your result. So that's why they have this fintech to help you to make a decision. How could you put in, if you put in more, you put in less, how many people participate, also making that differences. And are you going to get paid at what rate? So they will provide this calculation for you. And the next one, but not the last, this one is really is a Up Together community. It's another online platform similar to the lending circle. They pulled the money together. They are larger amount of money compared with Mission Asset Fund. Up Together, they pulling a lot more money together to support small business. So those two really is one of the good examples for our Asian American Lending Circle. And we also talk a lot about how could we be able to, instead of having a technology base, how could we locally start? And that's really one of the things one of our panelists, Richard, would be able to help us more. And we really see this as a very great opportunity to discuss with you all today as well. We want to launch this Asian American Lending Circle in much more formal ways at the next May. We've been talking about how could we starting to gather investors, how do we make it much more a legalized structure to protect each other, but at the same time, without tie in with too much collateral, without tie in too much more paperwork. Sometimes it's just hard for our mom and pop shop, as well as for a lot of immigrants and refugee communities. So without further ado, Richard, you want to share a couple thoughts, and maybe we can also to answer some question as well.
Thank you, Angie, to discuss, the Asian American Nandi Circle. Yeah. Hello, everyone. This is Richard. Yeah. So I can give you some, examples or some, different ways, how we see or, to change in the future, or how we experience in the past. As Angie mentioned, for the Asian American doing small business over here, sometimes it's really challenging to get the loan from the banking system. And for the Asian, especially you are new over here, if you want to get the loan from the Asian American circle, it's truly based on the trust. In the American banking system, it's based on the credit score, collateral, but for, in the Asian American or back in our home countries, we are based on the trust. I trust you, then I can invest. So I think, we have quite a few different ways, you want to get the loan, because you need the money from the other investors, or you have some actual money you lend out. So I think, in the last probably 20 years, we tried quite a few different ways. The number one is, we had some small business over here, like, you open a restaurant, you open a newspaper or educational consulting company or whatever. Then you have, you can talk with the Chamber of Commerce, it's kind of like more like the circle, you can, create a different or put it together or whatever, so based on your culture, your circumstance, but the bottom line is you have a group of people, you trust each other, then you can fund the resource from internal, then use the best way, use a legal way, how to do it legally, because when you talk about the investment, so you need to follow a certain rules, and that's easy to do because we are not doing anything illegal. So we are doing something legal. It's just to try to finish certain paperwork, tax return or some other things. The number two is how we can fund this kind of lending circle. How to do this in a way to be fair, to be more efficient. Also based on the size. Normally, when we only need small money, tens of thousands of dollars, this is the most efficient way. We also had some circumstance, we need close to millions of a little bit, or hundreds of thousands of dollars. In the last 20 years, we tried some other ways, the EB5 investments, from some legal way, the US government or immigration encouraged the investment from the outside. So, but that one is to get more and more challenge because of the US-China or, the US economic situation over here. So it's not easy to get the money in. As you know, lots of countries, they have a limit how much money you can wire over here. You can transfer, per person, by period of time. So for me, especially the pandemic in the last 2 years, we rarely looking for money from outside the United States. It's more try to reuse the resources. So I worked with the engine, with the Chamber of Commerce, with some other friends. So we had a different way to help each other, So for example, Chamber of Commerce, they may use the Nandi circle, we call it fair, or you can use some other ways. Say you have quite a few people put the money together. Say everyone put 10,000, 50,000, 100,000, whatever money. Then you decide which project you want to put in to help. Of course, you want to help the people in your circle first. But if you see opportunity outside the circle, you can do that. So that's between one Chamber of Commerce, with another one. So you can cooperate, because for example, for this year, we need more money. But for next year, we made a little bit of money, but we don't have any new project. We can help with some other circle. So that's the one we experienced. We found that it's very efficient, very successful, and it's purely based on the trust. Of course, we have some safety guard to make sure we don't, fall apart, or we don't, to have any bad situation, someone take the money away. So it's just with, prop management, and the control, I think we control that well. So we did it in the last couple of years. We did it, work together for 2 or 3 very successful money lending in a bit, things to help each other. Yeah, so I think, that's all I have, so I would like to spend more time, because it's more specific case. I would like to see from the participant, from the panel, if you have any specific situation, or you think you may have a situation, we can discuss to see what possible way we can help each other, or we find that is a very efficient way to do that, and then you can try in the future. Yeah.
So
Thank you.
Richard, you mentioned
Yeah.
that so in this lending circle, we really basically don't have any financing expenses at all, because we making decisions within our circles, we recommend the projects, and the projects in return, we receive a higher than the bank interest because of that.
Correct. Yes.
And I think one of the things, how could you see, and we really would like to hear some participants as well. Feel free to turn on your mic and join our discussions. I think one of the things in everybody's mind is, besides this technology base, which you would be able to approach, apply, join the circle, is how could locally be able to start one?
It depends on your circle. If you have some small business owners, like we have quite a few Chamber of Commerce, because we have the people who have a common interest, and then decide, to help each other. Then you can discuss to see how big the group can be, how share each share, how much share you want to have, and the kind of regulation or rules or principles to get together. It's more like it's a mutual help with each other. It's not it's a different way, based on it's built on trust, and then with the goal to help each other.
Definitely.
Richard, will you turn your camera back on for the group?
Oh, yes.
Thank you.
Let me see. Okay. Yeah, got it.
Thank you.
So, Christine and Laura, anybody at the chat box or question and answer sessions?
No, it does not look like we have any questions from the group. I did turn on the opportunity for people to unmute their mics if they'd like to. So any questions from the group?
I know this is maybe a harder concepts to absorb, particularly the different ways of calculating the interest. Um, I just want to also add some of those comments we have before, particularly in relationship to how you would be able to thinking about this, not just a loan, but a way to also generate income and also pushing for saving. Because this is circle, you can tell everybody come in at a different time at the different amounts of interest you can propose with different result, and each result can have a huge impact on your income level and also your expenses level as well. So this type of lending circle is really good because you are constantly in discussion the financing, I would say, knowledge with all the friends together. And I think that's really is a key we want to starting this type of lending circle, because we feel in the family, you may not get to discuss this type of uh, why we invest in this one. How am I going to get interest back? Why I have to take the risk? And you have this lending circle to help you to really evaluate all these together and make a decision. Some people bid higher because at that month they know they're going to pay the mortgage and they will be need a large amount of money, so they bid higher. But because it's later bid, so the payment wise from them is 44, is this is the 44,000, and the payment wise is 46. So it's not that much, but you get the money for the things you need to do at that month particularly. So that's kind of flexibility, and a group of the technical support that you have is just tremendous beneficial. And we really hope to bring this concept to others so we can starting to encourage more of the lending circles started in the States, and really not basing on the financing paperwork or a restricted system, but really based on the trust and based on the level you feel comfortable to involve.
Yeah, totally agree, Angie. I think the big key is for lots of new immigrants when they want to start a business. It's very difficult to get money, don't have the history or the enough credit. I can see lots of Asian American, especially Chinese American business, more like this way. With a group of people, to do this one, then eventually with the idea, say someone will take over the business, but in the beginning, it's more like the group of people to work together. Yeah.
Christine, I will put you on the spot. How do you see that cultural differences impact on financing? How would you see we can pushing this concept to the mainstream?
I think one of the things that I've been interested in listening to all is the fact that PPL has embraced this model and serving as kind of a steward and probably like the best word because it's a sports analogy, but a backstop to create some security around the circle. And I think with those kind of successes, I think there's ways for traditional Western financial institutions to perhaps get a better understanding of that model by seeing it work with a trusted partner like PPL, who a lot of funders have those types of relationships with. So I think that's one of the opportunities, and I think very thoughtful of PPL and those who brought that idea forward to start to embark on that kind of specific lending. So those are my quick thoughts about it.
Yeah, I think one of the things we feel difficult would be that the circle usually harder to get bigger. And that's what when they get into as a technology based lending, it's just increasing that distrust and harder for a lot of the cultural group to get involved as well. So I think definitely pros and cons, and we love to discuss further with chamber like yours, Christine, to be able to starting to even just the chamber to having your own membership. That is a trusted circle. That could be something we can start it to work with, and then to really having that trust, and at the same time that technical support. I think it's very important. And talk about those financial management part within your trusted friends. It's just you have so much gain. You gain the knowledge, you gain that network connection, and you really be able to know how to invest, when to invest, and when to ask for help. And I think that's really is that key to having this the lending circle, and you can starting to plan. So like people plan to bid higher at certain months because they know they need that money
based on their
for
needs,
certain things. So those are the things. It's just invaluable experience. We will hope people can starting to look into, not just for alternative financing, but definitely that financial knowledge support.
And deeper understanding. And I do think one of the things that you've talked about in several different ways is the issue of trust, and having an understanding that trust is centric to all of these relationships, but then hesitation and not having trust is also having impacts. And I think that's a theme that we're hearing among a lot of different communities. And I think we saw that a lot in applying for different types of grants that have been available during COVID, and how do you do such things, and the access, and how do you know where your information goes. So I think lots of what you shared here is rung true, and I think we have a better eye on it as a broader community than I think we've ever had. So I know I've greatly benefited from this presentation, and I hope the others that have joined us have as well. Do you have anything to say in closing, either Richard or Angie? Otherwise, I might wrap us up.
I think Laura, maybe you want to share a few words why Hennepin County starting this Elevate business, and what would be the website they can access to?
Yeah, and if there she is. And I think on the last slide we have of your presentation, we have the website address.
Oh yeah.
Great. Yeah, we'll have that come up with the website address so that everybody can see where they can go for services. Elevate Business is a partnership with the Chamber. And I think that, I know, Christine, you have some words about that, where we can support businesses with access to no cost consulting advisors from a great network of providers. And we just want to thank our presenters through Asian Media Access for this wonderful presentation. I think I was just, when Angie and I first talked about this, I know one of the main things that we hear about from businesses is access to funding. And, the idea that we could put together, put out there a model for some creative ways that businesses can look at accessing funding and putting together putting together a way that they can access some funds to support their business idea was an exciting idea for us at Hennepin County. So thank you very much for putting this together. And yep, there's the website that people can go to for some more information and accessing resources. So thank you very much for the presentation and everybody for joining us today.
Thanks, Laura. I think that was the perfect wrap up. So I think with that, we'll encourage you to engage with Elevate Business either through the website. The email address you see here actually comes to me, and we'll share more information and let you know when this presentation is on YouTube. So again, thank you, everyone. And I'm going to wrap us up for the day. Have a good rest of your Wednesday. Thanks so much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.